Have you ever watched someone walk away, knowing deep inside they would never find another like you? It's a strange kind of pain, not the kind that fades overnight, but the kind that stays. It doesn't haunt you because they left. It lingers because they will never admit they made a mistake. You gave them your time, your energy, maybe even your soul, and yet they act like it meant nothing, like you were just another face in the crowd, replaceable, disposable. But here's the truth. Most people don't realize that regret doesn't hit right away. Their ego, their pride, the endless validation from others shields them at first. They tell themselves they made the right choice, that they've upgraded, that they're moving forward without a single doubt. They laugh, they celebrate, they post pictures pretending they're happier than ever, and for a while, they might even believe it. But then reality creeps in. The illusion starts to crack. And when it does, it's not just a passing thought. It's a deep, gnawing feeling they can't shake. This is where most people make the fatal mistake. They try to force this moment. They beg, they plead, they send long texts searching for closure, trying to make the other person see what they lost. But regret doesn't work like that. Regret doesn't come from words. It comes from absence, from silence, from knowing they can never reach you again. That's what breaks their ego. Not your anger, not your pain, but your complete and total indifference. You see, true power isn't found in chasing. It's found in walking away without looking back. Stoicism teaches this, and dark psychology confirms it. A person never regrets losing someone who begs. They regret losing someone who transforms, the one who vanishes only to return as something untouchable, a force they can't ignore, someone they once overlooked but can never have again. By the end of this, you won't be the person they left. You'll be the person they remember, the one who slipped through their fingers never to return. If you're ready to make that transformation, let this be your mantra. Pain is my teacher, because every moment of suffering holds a lesson if you have the discipline to learn from it. Now let's begin. Number 1, the silent regret. They will never admit regret is a strange thing. It doesn't arrive with flashing lights or grand apologies. It slips in quietly like a shadow in the night. They won't say it. They won't admit it. Not to you, not to themselves. But deep down, it lingers. People rarely confess their mistakes when it comes to love. Not because they don't feel regret, but because their ego won't let them. Society tells them they made the right choice, that they've upgraded, that there's always someone better waiting, that they should never look back. And for a while they believe it. Right after they walk away, the world reassures them, friends validate them, social media feeds their pride. They might even have new options lined up, making them feel like they're moving up, not losing anything. But that feeling is built on illusion, and illusions always crack. Regret doesn't hit immediately. It doesn't show up when they're surrounded by distractions. It creeps in when the noise fades, when the excitement wears off, in the stillness of the night, in the quiet moments when they compare what they had to what they have now. That's when doubt starts whispering. Here's where most people fail. They try to force this moment. They beg, they reach out, they look for closure, hoping to hear, "I made a mistake." But regret doesn't come from words. It comes from what's missing, the absence of something real. Think about fire. It needs oxygen to burn. Take the oxygen away and it dies out. That's how the mind works too. The more you give them attention, energy, or reactions, the longer they stay comfortable in their choice. But when you remove yourself completely, when they feel the cold emptiness of your absence, that's when regret begins. They expect you to break. They expect to see you still watching, still waiting, still hoping. But when they look for you and find nothing, no words, no signs, no desperate attempts, something shifts in their mind. That's when the questions start. Did I make the wrong choice? Did I let go of something valuable? Doubt is the seed of regret, and doubt only grows in silence. People don't regret losing someone who chases. They regret losing someone who vanishes only to become something untouchable. When they see you thriving, evolving, becoming more than they ever imagined, that's when regret grips them. And they will never say it. Their pride won't allow it. But their actions will. You'll notice it. The sudden reappearance, the way mutual friends mention your name, the way they check your stories but never reach out, the way they show up in places you go, pretending it's just coincidence. That's their way of saying, I see you, I remember, I wonder if I made the right choice. But by the time they realize it, it won't matter because you'll already be too far ahead, and nothing destroys a person's ego more than knowing they lost someone forever. Detachment isn't revenge, it's power. In a world where everyone is desperate for validation, the one who walks away in silence holds all the control. Number 2, begging hands hold no power. The moment you beg, you lose. It's that simple. Nothing drains respect, attraction, or power faster than desperation. Yet, it's the mistake most people make. When someone leaves, they plead for another chance. They send long emotional messages pouring out their heart, trying to explain why walking away is a mistake. But here's the truth. They already made up their mind long before they left. By the time they walk away, they've already detached the feelings you're trying to remind them of. They've suppressed them. The memories you're trying to make them see, they've chosen to ignore them. And when you beg, all you do is confirm that leaving was the right decision. Think about it. If someone is truly valuable, if they truly believe in their worth, would they ever need to chase someone who doesn't want them? Would a king beg for loyalty? Would a diamond try to convince someone it's rare? A man who knows his value does not chase. He walks away and lets others realize what they lost on their own. The moment you beg, you send a silent message. You were right. I need you more than you need me. My happiness depends on you. That kind of weakness doesn't pull people back. It pushes them away. It doesn't make them reconsider. It makes them lose all respect for you. Because deep down, attraction isn't about logic, it's about power. And the moment you hand them all the power, the game is over. Here's something most people never understand. The more silent you become, the more noise they hear in their own mind. They expect you to react. They expect you to fight for them. They expect to feel important. But when you don't, it shakes their entire perception of you. Picture a chessboard. The one who moves first in desperation usually loses, but the one who waits, who watches, who makes strategic moves, that's the one who controls the game. Silence is that strategic move. It's the checkmate they never saw coming. They thought they had you figured out. They thought you'd crumble, that you'd chase, that you'd prove to them they had control. But the moment they realize they aren't as important to you as they thought, that's when doubt sets in. And doubt is the seed of regret. So instead of chasing, you walk away. You give them nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not an emotional breakdown, just silence. That's how you regain power. That's how you shift the dynamic without ever lifting a finger. And if they ever come back, it won't be because you convinced them, it will be because they convinced themselves. Now ask yourself, are you the one who begs or the one who lets them regret? Because in the end, those who beg are forgotten, but those who walk away, they are remembered forever. Number 3, master your emotions. Master the game. The first instinct when someone leaves is to react, to get angry, to prove something, to show them what they lost. But that's exactly what they expect. It's what weak people do, and weak people never change anyone's mind. A strong person's first move is emotional control. This isn't about burying feelings. It's about mastering them. Weakness is when emotions control you. Strength is when you control them. The moment you stop reacting, you take back your power. Because when you don't give them the reaction they're expecting, doubt starts creeping in. They expect you to chase, to call, to check in, to show jealousy. When you don't, it disrupts their entire reality. Instead of feeling reassured in their decision, they start questioning it. Instead of feeding their ego, you starve it. And nothing unsettles a person more than realizing they no longer have an effect on someone they thought they controlled. Emotional detachment is power. It's not coldness, it's clarity. It's understanding that their departure doesn't define you, that their choice isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of theirs. And when you embrace this mindset, you become untouchable. They don't regret losing the one who begs. They regret losing the one who no longer reacts, the one who disappears without a trace, the one who walks away so completely that they start to wonder if they ever mattered to you at all. And that's when regret begins. But here's the catch. It only works if it's real. If you fake it while secretly hoping they come back, they'll sense it. People can feel when energy still lingers. That's why true Stoicism isn't an act. It's a mindset. You detach from what you cannot control. You accept that people come and go, but your self-respect stays. And when you fully embrace that, you unlock a level of power most will never reach. Imagine standing in front of a storm. The winds are howling, the rain is pouring, everything is chaos. A weak person fights the storm, screaming at the sky, demanding it to stop. A strong person simply stands still, unfazed, knowing the storm will pass. That's emotional control. From this moment forward, react to nothing. No desperate texts, no emotional outbursts, no proving your worth, just silence and self-improvement. Because the one who masters their emotions masters everything. Number 4, the power of not caring. Nothing unsettles a person more than indifference, not anger, not sadness, not even revenge, just cold, unwavering indifference. When someone walks away, they expect a reaction. They expect you to chase, to plead, to prove their importance, because in that moment, they believe they hold all the power. They assume you'll crumble. They assume you'll fight for them, and when you don't, that's when everything shifts. The second you go completely silent, their confidence starts to crack. Suddenly, they're not so sure anymore. Doubt creeps in. Did I make the right choice? Why aren't they reacting? Did they ever care at all? These thoughts don't just pass. They consume people. Desire what they can't have. It's human nature. The more unavailable you become, the more they start to question their decision. What once felt like control now feels like uncertainty. What once felt like power now feels like regret. The biggest mistake people make is thinking anger is power. It's not. Anger still gives them a reaction. It still feeds their ego. But true indifference, that's what makes them feel invisible. And nothing destroys the ego more than realizing they no longer hold space in your mind. It's like a fire. If you feed it, it burns. If you starve it, it dies. The moment they sense that you truly do not care anymore, the fire within them starts to rage. And this time, it's them who can't stop thinking. So when they check your stories, when they try to get a reaction, when they subtly reach out, do nothing. They aren't reaching out because they care. They're reaching out to see if they still have control. And the moment you engage, you lose. The moment you remain indifferent, they lose. A person who values themselves does not grant access to those who walked away. Number 5, rise in silence. Let success speak. The most powerful transformation happens in silence, not when eyes are watching, not when people are waiting for you to fail, but in the quiet moments when no one expects anything from you. That's when you rebuild, that's when you rise. While they assume you're stuck in the past, you are creating your future. While they believe you're broken, you are becoming something greater, and by the time they realize it, it will be too late. Most people waste energy trying to prove something to those who walked away. They post pictures to spark jealousy. They drop hints hoping to be noticed. But a truly powerful person doesn't need validation. They disappear and improve in silence. No explanations, no announcements, just results. Regret isn't instant. It doesn't come the moment they leave. It comes when they see you thriving without them, when they realize they were just a chapter in your story, not the whole book. That's when it stings. The only way to make this a reality is to focus entirely on your own evolution. Work on your mind, build your body, master your purpose, not for them, but for yourself. Because when you become fully locked into your own growth, you become untouchable. And ironically, that's when they start to notice. The world rewards the person who moves forward without hesitation, the one who doesn't look back, the one who doesn't seek revenge, but instead becomes impossible to ignore. And here's the truth. They're watching. Even if they don't reach out, even if they act like they've moved on, even if they're with someone new, they are paying attention. And nothing hits harder than realizing they left someone who only became better after they were gone. So stop worrying about them. Stop wondering if they regret it yet. Stop waiting for closure. Your success is the only closure you need. The strongest never seek revenge. They simply rise in silence. And when they return, the world takes notice. Number 6. They always come back, but will you still care? People always return, not because they miss you, but because they miss the power they once had over you. The moment you stop chasing, the moment you go completely silent, the moment you elevate yourself beyond their expectations, something shifts in their mind. They start to wonder, they start to compare. They realize that what they walked away from was the best thing they had, but now they can't reach it. At first, they convince themselves they've moved on. They surround themselves with distractions, validation, maybe even someone new. They laugh louder, they act unbothered. But over time, reality sets in. The excitement fades, the new faces lose their charm, and suddenly they find themselves wondering, what am I doing? Do they even think about me? Here's the truth. People crave what they can't have. They are drawn to mystery, to challenge, to the emotional uncertainty of not knowing where they stand with someone. And nothing creates more mystery than someone who disappears without a trace, only to return as a completely transformed version of themselves. This is why they always return. When you no longer want them, the moment they feel they've lost their grip on you, their ego takes a hit. That's when they start testing the waters. A casual message, a reaction to your post, a random question through a mutual friend. But don't be fooled. They aren't coming back because they've changed. They're coming back to see if you have. This is where most people fail. They get excited, they think, they regret it, they want me back. But the truth is, they just want to see if they still have access to your emotions. If you engage, the power shifts again. And if you fall for it, the cycle repeats. That's why the real test isn't whether they return, it's whether you even care when they do. Number 7. When they reach out, it's just a test. They will reach out. It's not a question of if, but a matter of when. Maybe it's a simple, hey, a random reaction to your story, a question that doesn't really need an answer, but don't mistake it for what it's not. This isn't a heartfelt realization, it's a test. They aren't texting because they finally understand your worth. They're texting because they want to know if they still have access to you, if they can still affect your emotions, if you're still the same person they walked away from. Most people fail this test. They get excited thinking, this is it. They finally regret leaving. They respond immediately, engage in conversation, maybe even try to rekindle things. And the moment they do, game over. Because now they have exactly what they wanted: validation, proof that you were still waiting, still hoping. And the second they feel that security, their curiosity fades. They go back to their life, knowing they still had an effect on you. You lose. But the one who has truly leveled up, they do nothing. They don't entertain breadcrumbs. They don't allow someone who left to waltz back in like nothing happened, because they understand real power isn't in reacting, it's in indifference. So what do you do when they reach out? Nothing. A person who truly regrets leaving won't send weak, meaningless messages. They won't test the waters. They will make it clear that they want another chance. And even then, it's not about what they say. It's about what you have become in their absence. If you choose to respond, it must come from a place of complete detachment. Short, polite, unbothered. No emotion, no excitement, no effort. They must feel the shift. They must see that you are no longer the same person they left, but someone they can no longer reach. That is how you pass the test. That is how you win. Number 8. Beyond them. Becoming untouchable. At this point, the real question isn't whether they regret leaving, it's whether you even care anymore. The biggest mistake people make is stopping their growth the moment they get attention again. They think they're back in the game. But true power doesn't come from making them regret. It comes from moving forward so completely that their regret becomes irrelevant. A strong person doesn't live for the approval of others. They don't let their worth be determined by someone else's perception. They understand that relationships, emotions, even people, these things are temporary. But discipline, self-respect, and purpose, that lasts forever. So ask yourself, are you improving because you want to be noticed? Or are you improving because this is simply who you are? If your transformation is still tied to them, then you're still controlled by them. And real strength, real confidence, comes when your growth has nothing to do with them, but everything to do with you. A person who reaches this level doesn't need closure. They don't need validation. They don't need to prove anything, because they know they were always the prize. And when the one who walked away sees this, when they realize they lost someone who became even greater in their absence, that's when it truly hits them. But by then, it won't matter, because you'll already be too far ahead. The one who masters themselves is never controlled by anyone, and that's what makes them untouchable. Number 9, they'll never say it, but they feel it. They will never tell you they regret it. They will never openly admit they made a mistake, but deep down, they feel it. People are experts at protecting their ego. Even if they realize they lost someone rare, they won't give you the satisfaction of knowing it. Instead, they'll act unbothered, like they've moved on, like they never think about you. But actions always reveal the truth. The sudden story views, the random run-ins, the way their energy shifts when they see you thriving without them. Regret doesn't always come in words. It shows up in silence, in hesitation, in forced indifference. It's in the way they pretend not to care while quietly checking if you still do. And the greatest revenge? Not needing to hear it. Because at this point, you are no longer the person they left behind. You no longer seek validation from those who walked away. You aren't waiting for closure, explanations, or a sign that they still care. You don't need it because the real victory isn't in making them regret. It's in reaching a point where their regret means nothing to you, and that is what destroys their ego the most. They will never admit it, but they will feel it, and by the time they do, you will have already moved on to something greater. Number 10, the one who moves on first wins. The real battle isn't about who regrets first. It's about who moves on first. Regret is slow. It doesn't hit immediately. It creeps in like a shadow, growing stronger when reality settles in. At first, they convince themselves they made the right choice. They tell themselves they've upgraded, that they're better off. But as time passes, as the distractions fade, as the new faces lose their excitement, something changes. They start to wonder, they start to compare, and that's when regret begins. But by the time they feel it, you will have already outgrown the version of yourself that once cared. That's the irony. By the time they look back, searching for what they lost, the door they once walked through is no longer open. The version of you they thought would always be waiting simply doesn't exist anymore. Most people don't understand this. They wait. They hope. They wonder if the one who left will ever wake up and realize what they had. They check their phone, expecting a message. They look for signs that maybe, just maybe, regret has started to creep in. But here's the truth. The one who detaches first wins. Power isn't found in making someone come back. Power isn't about waiting for an apology, a confession, or a second chance. It's found in becoming so focused on your own life that it no longer matters if they do. Think about it. If you are still looking over your shoulder, still waiting for them to regret it, you are still living in their world. You are still making them the center of your story. But the moment you shift that focus, when you turn all of that energy inward, that's when everything changes. The strongest never chase the past. They build the future. They don't sit around waiting for someone to see their worth. They make sure their worth is undeniable, not just to others, but to themselves. They reach a level where losing them is the mistake that can never be corrected. And when that moment comes, when they finally realize what they lost, it won't be you who feels the regret. It will be them. Because nothing is more painful than realizing you lost someone who would have given you everything, someone who now doesn't even think about you anymore. That's the real victory. Not proving them wrong, not making them admit their mistake, but reaching a place where their mistake is no longer your concern. So, if you ever find yourself wondering, do they regret it yet? Stop, because the only question that matters is, why do I care? And the moment you stop caring, the moment you fully move on, that's the moment you win. Number 11, the moment you stop caring, you win. There's a moment in every journey when everything shifts, the moment when you no longer wake up thinking about them. The moment when their name doesn't sting anymore. The moment when you stop checking if they've reached out. That's the moment you win. Most people don't realize this because they're too focused on waiting for regret to hit the one who walked away, waiting for the text that proves they finally understand what they lost. But the truth is, the moment you stop caring about whether they regret it, that's when you truly move on. Regret works differently than most people think. It's not loud. It doesn't always come in the form of an apology. It doesn't always show up with a dramatic confession. It's slow. It creeps in when the distractions fade, when the excitement of their new life dies down, when they realize that what they thought was an upgrade was just a temporary escape. At first, they convinced themselves they made the right choice. They told themselves they were better off, that they needed something new. But as time passes, reality sets in. And when they finally look back, hoping to find you still there, they won't, because by then, you will have outgrown them. This is where most people get stuck. They wait for that regret. They check their phone, hoping for a message. They wonder if they'll ever hear those words, "I miss you, I made a mistake." But here's the truth. If you're still waiting, you're still attached. And as long as you're attached, you're not free. The real power isn't in making them regret it. It's in getting to a place where their regret is irrelevant. You see, when you truly move on, their absence stops feeling like a loss. It starts feeling like a gift. because the space they left behind is now filled with something better: your growth, your goals, your peace. This is what most never understand. They think moving on means pretending not to care while secretly hoping for a return. But true detachment isn't an act, it's a state of mind. It's knowing that whether they regret it or not doesn't change your life anymore. And that's when the tables turn. Because nothing is more unsettling than realizing you lost someone who doesn't miss you, someone who used to care deeply but now feels nothing, someone who was once yours but is now untouchable. That's the moment it hits them. Not when you post a picture trying to make them jealous. Not when you drop hints hoping they notice, but when they reach out and get no response. When they see you thriving and know it has nothing to do with them. When they realize the door they walked out of is locked and you're never opening it again. And when that moment comes, it won't be you feeling the regret, it will be them. Because there is no pain greater than knowing you had something valuable but can never have it again. So if you're still asking, do they regret it yet? Stop. Because the real question is, why does it matter? And the second you stop caring, the second you let go completely, that's when you win. That's when you become untouchable. And when they finally understand what they lost, it will be too late. Number 12. The one who transforms wins forever. There comes a point when everything changes, a point where you stop looking back, stop questioning, stop wondering if they regret it. This moment doesn't come when they reach out. It doesn't come when you see them struggling without you. It comes when you realize their regret no longer serves any purpose in your life. Most people never get here. They spend months, even years, living in the past, checking their phone for a message, looking for signs that maybe, just maybe, the person who walked away finally understands what they lost. But here's the truth. If you're still waiting for that moment, you're still trapped in their world. And as long as you're trapped in their world, you're not building your own. Regret is not your victory. Revenge is not your victory. Transformation is. Because when you truly move on, their absence is no longer something you grieve. It's something you use. You use that space they left behind to build something greater, to become someone they never expected to rise so high that by the time they finally understand what they lost, they can't even reach you anymore. This is what people fear the most. Not losing someone temporarily, but losing them forever. Not just seeing them move on, but realizing they've outgrown you in a way that makes coming back impossible. And that's exactly what happens when you take all that energy, the anger, the sadness, the longing, and redirect it into something that actually matters: yourself, your purpose, your life. Think about it. Every second spent wondering if they regret it is a second stolen from your future. Every time you check their social media, every time you replay the past, you are delaying your own progress. And for what? To see if they finally miss you, to confirm that you were right all along. That's not power, that's still being chained to them. The moment you break free is when their existence stops affecting your emotions. When their regret, or lack of it, becomes nothing more than a distant memory. That's the ultimate win. Because when you reach this level, something incredible happens. You don't just move on. You elevate, you become untouchable, and that's when they finally feel it. Not when you're still watching, still waiting, still hoping, but when they realize you are gone. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They will try to check in. They will try to see if they still have a hold on you. Maybe they'll send a casual message. Maybe they'll ask about you through mutual friends. Maybe they'll suddenly pop up, acting as if nothing happened. But by then, it won't matter, because you will have transformed into something they never saw coming. And that's when the pain of losing you will truly hit them. Not because you wanted them to feel it, but because they finally understand what they let go. And by that time, you won't even notice because your focus will no longer be on them. It will be on something far greater, yourself. That's the final lesson. The one who transforms wins forever, and the one who stays stuck in the past simply fades into it.